Retirement is supposed to be the best years. It's what we work for our entire lives. But are you making some mistakes that could turn your golden years into a frugal nightmare? Hi everybody, my name is Sarah. Thank you so much for joining me. If you don't know me, I'm the owner of frozenpennies.com. I'm a financial coach, and as a family, we are debt-free. My husband retired a couple of years ago. It's been a few years now at age 62. And I can tell you that some of these mistakes are mistakes that we made when he first retired. Stay tuned till number 10 at the end, which was our biggest mistake. And also, if you want some information on my new haircut, I'll fill you in at the end of the video too. Let's talk first about continuing the habits that we have while we're working into retirement. If you tend to spend a lot of money on DoorDash, going out to restaurants all the time, maybe hitting the casino up every weekend or a couple times a month just to spend some money as a hobby, you might want to reconsider those hobbies and those interests and those spending habits while you step into retirement. Now, the transition itself into retirement is going to be an adjustment for everybody. You might want to consider tightening the reins super tight at first, just until you start to get a feel of how much money you have coming in, how much money you need, and then how much money you're allotted to spend. And then you can loosen it up a little bit. But continuing to spend the way that you were spending when you had money coming in every 2 weeks, maybe even more so than you have right now, would be a very big mistake. Next, making big purchases just because you have the money. Just because you now have the capacity to grab a hold of that money, that 401k or retirement fund money that you've been saving for the last 50 years, doesn't mean you can just go blow it. I know that for us, my husband is a spender. So the minute that he was able to access that money, he wanted to go buy all of the things. Now, we made a list and decided on what things that he wanted to purchase as a reward for getting this far in life and getting to the retirement age as a whole. We decided on a couple of things that we would spend a little bit of money on. Not too much, not over the top, not blowing 60% of it. Just a few things as a celebration and as a reward. Just because you're retired doesn't mean you shouldn't have a budget. If you are looking for a free budget, I'm going to leave a link below to this free downloadable digital budget planner. Won't cost you a cent. Consider other ways to budget as well, whether it be paper and pen, a spreadsheet, a fancy online app. It doesn't make any difference. Just keep budgeting. You've gotten this far with a budget. Don't let it slip. Keep going. And number 3, another big mistake that seems to happen after people retire is getting scammed. A lot of times the call lists for retirement, I swear these companies get a list that says, hey, these 20 million people just retired. You might want to give them a call to see if you can scam them out of their hard-earned money. I swear it happens. Just last weekend, I was talking with somebody I knew, and her mom just got scammed. Now, luckily, they caught it in time. She got a letter in the mail that said the warranty on all her appliances had expired, so she needed to call this number immediately. It was urgent that she called this number right away to up her warranty. Well, she panicked and called the number, and the person on the other end of the phone said that her warranty was expired on all of her appliances and that she needed to have a plan in place. This way, if anything ever happened to her appliances, she could have the fix covered. Well, she didn't think about it. She knew how many times that her family told her, do not fall for this stuff. She'd heard it before, yet she didn't think, and she gave them her card number. She was paying $230 a month to have a warranty on her appliances. Right after she hung up, she realized that something wasn't quite right. She called her daughter and they straightened it out. But still, no matter how many times somebody is reminded, that moment of weakness, they cave and fall victim to the scammers. And next, a mistake that people make around retirement age is quitting their job when they're just not ready. Just because you're around retirement age doesn't mean you have to stop working if you don't want to. There's a couple of things that can happen here. If you love your job and enjoy the people that you work with and are having fun doing it, continue doing that job. If you don't necessarily love your job, but you feel like you're energetic and you're feeling good and your health is good and your mind is sharp still, consider doing something different. Starting a side hustle or starting a new small business or even starting YouTube is a great opportunity. There are a lot of people out there of retirement age that could benefit from your wisdom. Just because people keep asking you when you're going to retire does not mean that you have to be pushed into doing something you're not ready to do. One other thing that many people who are getting ready for retirement should do is shift your mindset just a little bit. If you have 5, 10, 20 years ahead of you of work still, considering changing that mindset of, I don't have any savings, I'm just going to have to work until I die. Shift that. There's still time available. I know many elderly people who only live on Social Security. Now, I have to say it's a struggle, and they have a lot of support in place. They're getting help from counties and state programs with things like rent and their electricity. So it is possible to live just on Social Security, but it's probably not nearly as much fun. So if you have some time available to you before you're ready to retire, then you can shift your mindset and start saving now. The best time to start saving is when you're 25 years old. The second best time to start saving is today. Consider living like you're on that fixed income today in order to prepare for doing so down the line. That way, you can take that extra money and stock it away for savings. I believe that going into retirement with debt is a huge mistake. Every single person I talk to who says they're getting ready to retire, I suggest to them to get rid of the debt. Now, many times people think, well, my house isn't paid off yet, so I'm going to use that 401k money that I'll have access to pay off my house. That's not a terrible idea, but it should be the last resort. If you can get that house and all of your consumer debt paid off before you retire, it's going to set up that retirement stage of life in a much better light. And you'll have much less stress and a much more relaxed atmosphere to live your best golden years. Whatever you do, please set yourself up so you're not making monthly payments on consumer debt after you retire. And next, not having a clear retirement plan. Now, this doesn't necessarily just mean financially. It can mean across the board, an entire life plan. How much money are you going to have coming in? Are you going to use the 401k money or the retirement funds that you have? Or are you going to try to live on Social Security only and then use that money for supplemental purchases or fun? Are you going to stay in your house? Are you going to be bored in your retirement? I know many people feel like they're going to be so bored after they stop working because that's all they've ever known. There are so many exciting things to look forward to once you retire, once you don't have to punch that clock anymore. Consider new hobbies. Consider reconnecting with old friends. Consider making a plan where you get together often with family. I know that my husband, in the last few years that he's been retired, has never been bored. Of course, my list of projects for him is huge, but he's got so many interests and so many hobbies that he's always busy doing something. On the financial end, make sure that you're allocating a specific amount of money for each thing in each category of your budget, including maybe some travel and maybe some fun. Next, failing to set boundaries on your spending. Now, you don't have the ability of bringing in more money each week like you used to. It's going to shift, it's going to change. Now, if you decide that you want to do a little side hustle, you want to make a little extra money, you are able to make up to a certain amount of money each year and still collect your retirement. I'm not exactly sure on the details of this. I believe it's $19,000 a year up till the age of 71. If you guys know the answer to this, please leave it in the comments. And then you can make as much money after 71 as you can and as you want to and still collect your Social Security. Give yourself a line in the budget for the things that you love, but be wise and be intentional and understand that this retirement fund, if you have one, has to last you the entire life. And it's time to put the kibosh on shopping for sport. No longer do you need to do that. No longer do you need to go shopping because you're bored. I am super sure that you have enough stuff, enough clothes, and enough shoes. Unless some life-altering things happen where you need new clothes, you probably have enough. And the next mistake that some people make are claiming Social Security too early. Now, this really could be a mistake for some people, but for other people, I don't necessarily think that this is a mistake. Here's what I mean. My husband had a very physical job. He had a very tough job all of his life. He did physical labor. He was sore. He was tired. His knees were bad. His shoulders aches. He has arthritis in his hands. At 62 years old, it was time for him to retire. It was time for him to start collecting Social Security. Now, when he retired, was not even 50 yet, so I still have plenty of days ahead of me to work and bring in money for us to live fine with. This was a decision that we made together. I said, honey, let's do it. Life is too short, you're too tired, you're too sore, and there's no reason why you can't. Start collecting your Social Security at 62. Now, for other people, this may be a mistake. If you say, love your job, you have a job that's not physical, you enjoy what you're doing, you're good at it, and you can work until you're 72, then I say go for it. And next, ignoring inflation. Now, we all have to consider inflation, and we all have to make adjustments to our budget and our finances to meet the rising costs of things today. But if you are at retirement age or you've already retired, paying close attention to inflation and how much money you need to live each month is important. Ignoring inflation and ignoring the rising costs of everything could be detrimental to your finances in years to come. Neglecting to adjust retirement strategies. When you're younger, your investments tend to be a little bit more aggressive, a little bit more risk is attached to it. As you get older, you want a less aggressive approach and you want less risk. Now, I have to say right here that I am not a financial advisor. So if you want more details on investment strategy, I highly encourage you to speak to a financial advisor. As a financial coach, I can just tell you that we're discussing things that might be potential mistakes for retirement. If you want more details on adjusting your retirement and your investment, go speak to somebody with a lot more knowledge on the subject than I have. And the next one is overlooking tax implications. Again, I am not a tax expert. I encourage you to speak to a tax expert about how you can write things off and the implications of taking money out of your 401k or your retirement account and using that money, and how it will affect your tax brackets and your tax payoffs. Underestimating longevity. Many people overestimate or underestimate how long they're going to live. You want to make sure that your saving lasts at least the same amount of time that you do or longer. You do not want to outlive your savings. Take care of yourself now. If you've never been one to take care of your health in the past, now is a fantastic time to start. And don't assume that sickness and illness may stay away forever. The older we get, the more apt that we are to get sick. So take care of yourself now, hope for the best, prepare for the worst, and do what you can today to live a long and healthy life. Spending too much too soon. Now, I touched on this a little bit earlier. When people get a large sum of money that they have access to, they may tend to go a little crazy. Make sure that you have a plan in action and you're not tapping into that unless you absolutely need to. This is the same kind of thing that happens when people win the lottery. They get access to all of this big money, they spend it all, and they end up going bankrupt. You don't want to do that in your retirement years. You don't want to spend too much too soon. You want to stretch that out as long as you possibly can. It all goes back to living within your means. Even in retirement, living within your means is important. Failing to downsize is a big mistake that many retirees face. When we bought this house knowing that we could age in place. We didn't have to move. We didn't have to go anywhere. We could construct this house eventually, little by little, in a way that we could live in potentially for the rest of our lives. It had a bedroom downstairs and a bathroom downstairs. Everything is on the main floor. There are bedrooms upstairs, which is where I am right now, but eventually, as we grow older, we can move to the downstairs bedroom and live essentially on the main floor. Now, many people do not have that option. I know my grandmother had a split level house. It was way more house than she needed as she got older, and really, I felt like it was time to sell the house years before she passed, but she was determined to stay in the house that she raised her babies in and that she lived very happily with my grandfather. So she had to make adjustments to that. As a potential buyer of a house in my 20s or 30s, I chose to find something that I knew I never had to move again. If you find that you're getting close to retirement age and you still have a mortgage, or you've already retired and still are making that mortgage payment, you might want to consider selling, paying off that mortgage, and significantly downsizing. Not only are you considering the size of the house and the mortgage payment if you still have it, also consider the amount of money that you're paying for utilities and taxes, including maintenance. Are you willing to pay those large bills while you're retired? Downsizing can free up capital and reduce your monthly expenses. Not staying active and engaged. Many times I've heard stories of people retiring and all they do is sit in their chair all day long and watch TV. They're not active, they're not engaged, they're not being social. Socialization is a really big deal as you age. You want to make sure that you have a social calendar, that you're staying busy, that you're staying sharp, that you're always learning something, that you're reading and you're continuing to educate yourself and be social. The last thing we want in our retirement years is a sedentary lifestyle and social isolation. And lastly, this is the biggest mistake that we made when my husband retired. Underestimating the cost of medical insurance. Now, you have to have medical insurance because the cost of any kind of medical procedure or illness is astronomical. So you have to have the insurance. What we didn't understand was the actual cost of the insurance. And because my husband retired at 62, he was not eligible for Medicaid. So that means that we had to pay insurance out of pocket. Now, the first year that we did this, we went to a broker and she helped us and walked us through. But if you are making more than you'd say claimed that you might think you're gonna make, you actually have to pay money back when you file your taxes. Okay, here's the story. So we go to this broker and we think with my business, this is how much money that I'm going to make this next year. Based on last year, this is what I'm thinking we're gonna make. This is how much money my husband has coming in for Social Security, the whole works, all of the thing. This is how much money we have, okay? We end up making more money than we thought we would from my business. So that means during tax season, when we have our adjusted income, because we were, say, paying $500 a month for our insurance, and we were making more money than we anticipated we would, now our income has gone up and we have to pay that money back to insurance. I had no idea that that was a thing, and nobody told me any different. So you're better off paying more money than you think for insurance if one of you or both of you are still working. Not to mention the rising costs of healthcare, insurance premiums, and out-of-pocket expenses, because not all things are covered by insurance. You have to prepare for that. It's so important. We are doing a much better job now that we've learned these lessons in this year and the upcoming years. Do you have any other tips if you're already retired? Are there lessons that you wish that you knew before you retired? Are there mistakes that you made that you would love to share with our community so they maybe won't make the same mistakes again? If so, please leave them in the comments. I love that you're here. I truly appreciate you. Thank you so much and have a great day. Okay, if you're staying till the end and you want to know about my new haircut, let me share. It was so much fun. I found this great local girl. She was recommended by somebody that I knew, and she did such a good job. Now, I think it's a little bit short. I would like to see how it goes when it grows out a little bit. I'm not quite sure I like the shortness of it, but the best part was it was $30. She owns her own little salon in the neighboring town right next door, and she charged me $30 for everything. Cut, wash, style, the whole works. She was adorable. Of course, I tipped her as well, and I will be going back to her. But here's my question for you. I know that tipping is kind of a hot subject right now. Everybody wants to be tipped. But when somebody owns their own business, say they own their own salon, do you tip them? Do you tip them the full 20%? Do you only tip them 10%? What is the idea about tipping somebody who owns their own business? Please share. I'd love to know. Thanks again for watching. Bye-bye.